I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the I'd like to introduce my guest. This is Lori Canepa, and Lori I met in an indirect way through my church. And so when she came back from her recent tour in Afghanistan, I asked her if she'd be a guest on the show. So, Lori, the first question I'd like to ask you is, why did you join the Navy?
Well, I joined the Navy because I always wanted to be in the military. Since I was a little girl, I ended up having children and getting married young. And I realized as I became a single mom that I was going to have to figure out a way to better my life and my children's life, and paid for it. And I thought pretty much school was the only way. And the military with the GI Bill and the benefits and whatnot definitely was one of the most viable options for me. As well as I wanted to make a difference post 9/11 when I joined. I joined in 2004. And I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to show my boys, be a good example. I just wanted to definitely do something positive.
Let's talk about your 4 boys for a minute. Give us their names.
My oldest son's Christian. My second oldest son, Christian's 16. And I have a 13-year-old whose name is CJ. And then my 10-year-old is Cody. And my youngest is 7, Colton. They're my boys.
And they're very proud of you of that, I'm sure. When you were called up to go to Afghanistan, how did the Navy do that? Were you how much time were you given?
Well, I have an interesting story. I'm called an individual augmentee, an IA, and that's relatively new to the military. I think it's even new post-Desert Storm. So it's one of those things where individually throughout the Navy, and I think the Air Force does it as well, they will put a call out. There's a need for a certain amount of people for different missions. And I originally volunteered or put myself on a list to go to Iraq for a detainee operations mission. And I was activated in February of 2008 for training and all of the preparations to go there. That mission got put on hold and canceled, and I was kept active duty, kept training, and I had a 3-day notice to be in from the West Coast to East Coast. Probably not even that, but I was told about Friday that I needed to be in Fort Bragg, North Carolina on Sunday, but Monday for the beginning of my training. But Sunday was ideally when I had to report. So it was a pretty last-minute type of a thing. I was thrown onto a provincial reconstruction team, which rebuilds the infrastructure for Afghanistan, was now where I was going. So that was how that happened. And that's very typical, though. Very, very typical. Individual augmentees now are very, very, I wouldn't say common, but more so it's instead of units being activated, people are being activated.
So what was your occupation? What they train you to do? I think originally you told me you were interested in becoming military police.
Yes, I belong to a military security unit, Master at Arms unit. My base is Moreno Valley, but we support a weapons station in Corona. That's what my unit does, my reserve unit. Originally I was going to be detainee operations prison guard, for lack of a better word. That's my original training. For my first deployment, I was then thrown into completely another set of training, which was civil affairs, a multinational outreach, and like I said, we were going to be a provincial reconstruction team. I didn't even know what that meant when they told me.
Well, that's rebuilding the infrastructure, roads, buildings, hospitals, schools.
Because they told me it was a PRT. I kept saying, what's a PRT? Because PRT to me is it's a physical requirement test. I'm like, I don't understand a PRT. I'm okay, and they explained it to me, and okay. So I went into all this very interesting training about counterinsurgency, very interesting type of training that how to win the hearts and minds, that type of thing.
So now, originally your intention was to deploy to Iraq, but at the last minute, the Navy decided to send you to, I know you ended up in Afghanistan. How did that happen?
The Navy had a need. My mission to Iraq was put on hold. They put it way on the back burner because the facility we were going to stand up, the detainee facility, was not built yet. So the Navy had a need, and literally I was called and told about it on Friday, and I was shipped. My orders were cut that day. Literally, they showed up in my email, and I let my reserve center, I let everybody know, and I was on a plane on Sunday to North Carolina. I had a deadline. I can't remember, it was like midnight, but I got there and checked in about 6 in the evening on Sunday.
So you had like a 48-hour call to duty, so to speak.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I had to throw everything together and make sure that I was taking all of the uniforms that had already been issued and whatnot, and then I ended up getting a whole other set of uniforms issued to me. So, it's okay. It was just the military.
So when you landed in Afghanistan, I'm sure, this is an understatement, that it was a total culture shock.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you tell us, educate me on what it's like to be a modern day Afghan woman living over there right now compared to our life?
Afghan women, first of all, it was probably about 3 months before I actually saw an Afghan woman. Like, no kidding. Men can go and do, they work and take care of the family, and they as far as financially, that's what they do. You don't see the women. You rarely see the women, and if you do, they're in a blue burqa.
And that's because in that society, men and women, are they, I understand constitutionally they might be considered equal, but culturally that's a whole different
Absolutely.
ball of wax.
The culture there, their Pashtun is their culture for, that's where they speak Pashtun, and it's a very conservative, it's a, if you would, like in Scotland, I would say the Highlanders. They live in the mountains. They're very hardy people. They have very, very conservative views on the place of a man and a woman. Very, very different. The girls, they would educate, if you were lucky, if you're really, really lucky, you could go to school and get educated. You could even go to college if you're really, really lucky, but you knew the minute you got out, you're going to go have babies, live behind a veil, and that was it. And
that was it. So there was no opportunity for a modern day Afghan woman to have a career?
No, not
because she's basically still relegated back to a lifestyle that existed hundreds of years ago. And although we live in a modern world, they still live in an old way.
Absolutely, especially the urban areas, or excuse me, from the urban areas to the rural areas, like Kabul, more progressive. The women there are allowed to do a little bit more. They can go out and not get burnt by, showing their face. They can wear just a scarf, but not in the rural areas. I was in a very, very rural province. I could see into Pakistan, and where I was, the women knew their place, and they knew that they didn't talk back. They just didn't do it. They didn't have rights.
So that's it. They didn't have rights. So they're living in a society that really does not treat them as equal, and they're really considered property more than they are human. Absolutely. And their main role is to produce children and to take care of the home.
Yes.
And that's their life.
Absolutely. That's absolutely it.
They must have been real interested when they met you because you're the modern day military woman.
Yeah.
How did they react to you when they first met you?
Men were curious, very curious. I was asked many times, so your husband allowed you to come over here? And no, he did not allow me to do anything, for one. And for two, I'm divorced, so he can't even tell me what to do. So, and the divorce thing was very confusing to them. You're divorced? Well, what happened? Because men can divorce the women, but women cannot divorce.
Now, and I'm assuming they don't have like divorce court there where you go to a courthouse downtown Kabul and you have a lawyer. They don't do it that way. The husband does what now?
You can, in the Muslim tradition too, you can say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you 3 times. You can do that. If you want to do it like by the letter of the law, if you will, you would go to a shura, which is comprised of the elders, and kind of present their case, and they would say, okay, well, you're divorced, and it's fine. Or, oh no, you can't get divorced because that's not a good reason. But if it's the man, yeah, it's no problem. And the man gets the kids, and the man gets everything. You do everything, and you're up a creek without a paddle if you're a woman who is displaced, because your family that you were born into won't take you back because they don't want another mouth to feed, and it's shameful for them, and you're obviously not going to be living with your husband or your husband's family, so you have no place to go. So you just really don't get divorced. If you're a woman, you just live with it.
I'm not sure I like that idea. But part of what your job was, since you were working in security there, part of your job was to guard the Afghan civilian women.
Yes.
And I know you worked at a medical clinic. And can you tell us what happened to you one day when you were at the medical clinic?
Yes, we were doing a medical outreach. It was kind of if you will, a mobile clinic. And I was in charge of searching all the females, and being the security, both exterior and interior, for the women's clinic. So
every civilian Afghan woman that came in, they had to be searched. That's just part of it.
Yes, and
no matter
physically,
what.
I had to pat them down, if you will. I had to search their body, make sure that there was no weapons, no explosives, no nothing. And you had to be pretty careful because there are cultural considerations, but you pretty much had to touch everything to make sure that everything was clear, because you can hide a lot under a burqa. So you had to make sure that they were clean, and then once they were inside the clinic, then I was responsible for keeping, the doorway. Nobody comes in and out unless I say they can come in and out. If I needed somebody to come in, because I had a female medic with me and my female interpreter, and for the most part, that's about all you're allowed to have in there. They don't want, especially American male service members, they don't even care if they're doctors. They do not want them near their women. They don't want them to look at their women. If they have to take that burqa off, they don't want them anywhere near them.
So it's only women that come into contact in dealing with the Afghan women,
yes,
because the men do not want Western male eyes, yes, looking at their women. Absolutely. In any way, shape, for any reason.
Yes, they did. It was a dire circumstance if you were going to have that type of contact, and you wouldn't have a woman with you. It would be in a situation where there's no female with you, and you have to search a woman or do something or interact with a woman. It was just a very dire, rare circumstance that you would be in that situation. That's why they had people like me. So
in your group that you were in Afghanistan, how many women were there?
Total on our base, we had 13 women. That included some military police females. We had a military police unit that was that lived on our FOB as well, our forward operating bases, FOB. And we had 13 total females for my stint there, as composed of the whole FOB, including Afghans that lived there, because we had Afghan security guards. We also had Afghan special forces, but a few different units that lived on our FOB. About 1,000 personnel with 13 women, and the rest of them were men, obviously.
Wow, that's okay. When you were in this situation at the hospital, at the medical clinic,
yes,
which I understand was basically a mud hut, yes, that was away from the main part of the village, is that right?
Yes, yes.
So during one day when you were at the medical clinic, were you involved in a firefight?
Yes. It was a specific mission that we were on. Like I said, it was a medical outreach, and it was where the men were situated was inside of an outpost, an army outpost. It was very, very small, very, very tiny place, but it had walls, concertina wire. It was somewhat secure, and they had firepower there. That's where all the men were situated. That's where the entire medical clinic for the men were. Now the women, of course, we had to be separate, so we were across a street down a goat path in the Shura building, which is a mud hut, as you stated, and that's where we said that's where the medical clinic for the women was. And I had an 8-man squad for my physical security. And they were situated outside, and they set up a perimeter, make sure that we're safe. We had one 240, but everybody else had their M4, their regular rifle, and sidearms. We all had sidearms, but other than that, yeah, you had concealment. We didn't have cover because mud hut walls do not stop anything at all. You're not terribly safe there. It just makes you feel better because you can be seen.
So when you were out on this, when you were out on patrol, what happened? Weren't you involved in that?
Yes, what happened, we knew we were going to get shot at. We knew this was going to happen. We had had intel because this particular place had been shot at 10 days in a row, and out of the last month, they had missed like 1 or 2 days of getting shot at. They always got shot at. So we knew we were going to get shot at. We just didn't know when. So we were expecting it, sort of. You never really expect it. When this shooting starts, it's always a bit of a surprise. But when it started to go down, and you could hear the shooting, and I had 7 civilians. There was 4 females and 3 children that were in the clinic at the time. My medic was evaluating them, and they were there, and they wanted to leave, but I had to restrain one woman and her child because she wanted to run out. She wanted to run. There was large windows. She wanted to run in front of them, and she just was panicky, and I just can't let her run out. So I had to restrain her. I was in contact with this staff sergeant that was dealing with the exterior perimeter to make sure we knew what was going on. Because he told me, he's like, when we gotta go, we gotta go. I'm going to tell you when we gotta go, and you got to get them all together, and you got to leave. And so when the shooting started, I was responsible for everybody in the room. I had my female medic, I had my female interpreter, I had the 7 civilians. They were my responsibility.
Weren't you scared? I mean, if I knew that bullets were headed my way, I'd be ducking cover somewhere.
You did. You had to. I had 4 people in the corner where I was at. And then when I say corner, I say that with almost a smile on my face because there was not a lot of corner to be had. There was 2 very large 4x4 windows, and there was this small little space that I had to have 4 people in. Not fun. So that's where I was at, and then my interpreter and the medic and the other civilians were across the room from me. And so I had to yell at them, get down, you had to stay in the corner. Get everybody in the corner, stay in the corner. I had to, keep the people in my direct contact in the corner. And like I said, there was a mother and child. She kept wanting to take her kid and run out the door, and I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let her run in front of the windows at least, let alone run outside. So we did take cover, if you will. But yeah, like I said, it's really more concealing. It makes you feel better, but if bullets come your way, they're going to penetrate. It's not going to be fun. So it was a little unnerving. But my biggest concern was to make sure that they were safe. And they were okay, and they weren't going to get into any danger or be harmed in any way, because I felt personally responsible for everybody in that room.
And saying that, would you have taken a bullet?
If I had to, because at one point in time I actually did have to shield because I had body armor. I have a much better chance of not dying than this civilian who has nothing. She just has her clothes. So I actually did at one point in time, because we were wrapping it up, we're trying to get everybody out of there or ready to run when the bullet stopped, firing. So I actually stood in the doorway because they don't have doors; they just doorways. So I stood in the door to make the females feel more comfortable because they knew that there was shooting going on. So I shielded them in more of a sense that it made them feel better. And I knew, like I said, if a stray bullet came, it was not going to probably do as much damage as it was going to do to them. It would have killed them. It would not most likely have killed me. I had my body armor, so I did use my body as a shield, if you will.
So your training kicked in. So
yes.
Mentally, were you, oh my God, I got bullets. Oh my God, this is going to I could get shot here, or did your training just kick in and you just did exactly what you were trained to do?
I feel that I did what I was trained to do because, like I said, my concern was more for their safety. I put myself between them and what I considered danger the entire time they were there. And once I got it's starting to clear up, there was a lull in the firing, we let them leave because we knew that they would be able to get back to their home and they knew the best way to go. But I couldn't let them run out in the middle of a firefight. So I did keep my body in the way so that and as far as that's concerned, my interpreter as well, she only had a flak jacket, which is not going to stop the 7.62 bullet. It's going to not do anything for her. So, I had to make sure that the people that were not as protected as I had enough protection. I will be okay. So that's the way I looked at it. I was responsible for them. I would probably be in a lot better shape if I got hit as opposed to them. So that was the way I looked at it, and just their safety.
So, was that the only incident?
Well, that was a pretty long incident, though.
45 minutes.
It was
right?
45 minutes in the building, and it was a little over an hour from very start to very end of the entire being shot at ordeal, because we had to run up the hill to get to our vehicles. We got to run up a alley, if you will, that you knew the bullets were coming down because we were being shot at from, they had the high ground, so we were being shot at from above. And so when you're running uphill to your vehicle, you're being shot at because you're running past the little things that the soldiers had sprayed on the HESCO barriers that said this is where the bullets hit. So you're running past that going, get in the vehicle now, get in. I'm screaming at my interpreter, get in the vehicle now, shut the door. What are you doing? So that was a pretty long ordeal. That was my only bullets being shot at me incident. We were mortared and rocketed probably twice a month. I would be on the phone with family and I gotta go. I hear incoming. Gotta go. That was a rocket. Sorry, I'll let you know when it's cool. So yeah, we did. It was interesting.
So you did 6 months over there?
My tour was 9 months.
Oh, 9 months.
I was 9 months boots on the ground. It was a 12-month activation for that, but total activation 20 months, and I came out of completely civilian career, so it was a little bit different.
That's an understatement.
Yes.
Was it worth the experience?
Absolutely. I put my name on a list because I wanted to do my part. I really did. I wanted to do my part and make a difference. I was tired of staying back. That's the way I looked at it. I was tired of staying back. I wanted to do something proactive and positive, and I feel like I did.
So I understand you're going to make the Navy a career.
Yes, and 20 years in the reserves. I guess I can deploy. Pretty much, we can choose our deployments and do. And like I said, I was crazy enough to choose a combat zone. I figure I can go somewhere else. But yes, I would like to.
So now, when I first met you, I talked to you about this post-traumatic stress disorder because this really is a huge concern. It's my opinion, only my opinion. I don't have any real, I'm not a doctor or lawyer, so I don't have those kind of credentials. Mm-hmm. But in my experience of working with veterans for 25 years, they all told me the same thing. They simply cannot get enough rest.
Yes.
So because you can't get the rest that your body needs to heal, it's my opinion that virtually everybody coming out of the military has PTSD from one degree to another. Now, you have to be able to recognize that you have it.
Yes.
So do you?
I do. I know I do have it to a degree. I'm not violently angry or, I'm not quite at that degree. I think if I wouldn't have been able to recognize it, it could have gotten that bad. But yes, absolutely. Sleep, huge thing. You didn't sleep. You never slept because you had a regular job. You had other job. You had lots of different duties, plus the fact that you had guard duty in the middle of the night as well. Because I'm below an E6, so we had guard duty in the middle of the night. It was awesome.
So if you got 4 hours of sleep a night, you were lucky.
You were good. Yeah, you were really lucky. And even then, I didn't sleep like full through. I mean, I would probably say 2 to maybe 3 hours is as much as I ever slept in one go. Other than right after that firefight, I did kind of pass out. I was,
Well,
my adrenaline was down, and so I went to my room thinking I'm just going to take about a half an hour nap. I'll, just take a little shut-eye, and I woke up about 5 hours later. So my body said, good night.
understandably.
Yes.
So PTSD.
Yes.
Tell me some of the ways that manifest within you, like anger management, short-term temper, the boys are getting on your nerves, and you just, okay, kids, it's time to...
I had that even when I was still over it. When I would talk to them, I had not been around children for 20 months toward to the end of it. I was, 20 months not being around children at all. I didn't have any patience at all. I would get annoyed with them when they were on the phone with me and they were trying to talk over each other because they were just excited and they wanted to all tell me everything that was going on, and they were talking over each other and like kind of jostling for attention. That would drive me up the wall. It would be to the point where I gotta go. I would cut my calls short because it would just bother me that much. So when I got home, I ended up, we got a lease on a condo in LA. My parents had my kids. They took my kids for this whole time I was activated, and they're in Hemet. So my kids were there, and my dad said, hey, do you want us to keep the kids for? And I'm like, yeah, like that's a really good idea, because I didn't want to put myself in a position where I'm jumping back into parenting and all the stresses of that when I knew that I had no patience, no tolerance.
So in your case, you were extremely fortunate
Yes.
in the fact that you have a very strong family support system.
Absolutely.
And that's what allows you to do what you're doing now as far as going to school, and you
Yes.
know you can call up mom and dad and say, I need to send the
Yes.
kids over because I need to study or whatever.
Absolutely. My family has been very, very good throughout the whole thing. And then my boyfriend, Michael, he's a vet as well, and he knows signs and symptoms as well. I mean, he can tell me, I have dreams. I didn't start having dreams until about 4 months after I got home.
So when you say dreams, are they dreams of when you were in the firefight, or are they just dreams of what?
Dreams of, I think, more fears than anything, because they would always try to make you don't go outside, like especially being a female. Don't go outside at night without a weapon, or this or that, because we were on a blackout fob. So my fob, no lights. So you had to be careful. We had Afghan nationals that were on our fob. We had roughly 400 of them on our fob. They weren't allowed within our inner walls or inner perimeter, but they still. So at any rate, the most vivid dream that I can recall was we were putting somebody on a helicopter, because we had a landing zone on our fob as well, and big guns, and we had a lot of things on our fob, for a small fob. But I remember it was a prisoner we were putting on a helicopter. We were being attacked because they were trying to get their whoever we were putting on this helicopter, and we were getting shot at, and the guys I was with were shot, and I had to run, and it was a pursuit, and I was getting ready to defend myself with more Mortal Kombat. I mean, I woke up, and Michael said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just had that was not a fun dream." And he's like, "I know, I can tell," just because I was breathing very heavily, and I was physically upset, and he could see and tell. He knew just by the way I was acting. And I woke up, and I was upset at first. I was very upset. My heart was racing, but those are the types of dreams that I have and would have. And you try not to think about them too much, but those are the type of crazy things. I never even thought I would have a dream like that.
Yes, but you're only about 35.
Yes.
As you get older, those dreams may manifest themselves in ways you don't anticipate.
Right.
So I would suggest to you, because I know we've talked about this when I first met you, you're not enrolled in the VA system?
Not yet, no. Not
okay,
for
I'm going to take this opportunity since I'm interviewing you, to strongly encourage you to do that.
Yes.
Because right now, the VA is undergoing a transformation. And the transformation that they're undergoing is they really want to do the best thing for the veteran, especially women veterans. So in the last year or two, they've really ramped up the women's health care clinic at the VAs all over the nation, because they recognize that this generation of women veterans, first of all, your generation of women veterans is so completely different from mine.
Right.
When I was in the Army from 1968 to 71, when a woman got pregnant, you were automatically discharged.
Right.
You were not allowed to have, in fact, I don't even think, well, you weren't allowed to have children at all and be in the military. We never were going to be sent anywhere unless we requested it to be sent to Vietnam
Gotcha.
or overseas somewhere. I had peers that went to Vietnam. Not me. I went to Germany instead because I didn't want anything,
Right.
you know. I'm not ready for combat. I wasn't then, I'm not now.
Right.
But ability rating based on just this issue,
Right.
not any other physical issues or medical conditions that you may have on the PTSD. I cannot stress upon you enough. The older you get, the worse it gets without treatment.
Okay.
President Obama made, in fact, he said this at the VFW National Convention last year, we're going to do everything the United States can do to treat this generation of vets better than any other generation of veterans. That means they are pouring billions of dollars into the VA system and to the VA healthcare system. So once again, I have a tendency to repeat myself. I do it because I'm very passionate about this topic. Take the time, Lori. Do yourself, do those 4 handsome young men, your boys, do them a favor, give them a chance at an education. Because if you get rated minimum 0% from the VA, that is almost like a golden ticket through the California Department of Veterans Affairs, so your children can go to college for free under the University of California or the California State University school system. Oh my God.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if for no other reason than that, I encourage you. But the real reason we're here is so you are a modern American woman veteran. You have children.
Yes.
You went overseas in a combat situation. You were willing to put your life on the line. We owe you for that. But we cannot pay you back if you do not apply to begin with. So if people out there watching this program take nothing out of this interview, take this. Apply for your benefits. They are entitlements. They're not a handout. It's not welfare. They're not giving it to you because, you know, they're giving it to you because of a 45-minute firefight out in the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan. They're giving it to you because you put your life, you were willing to put your life on the line. So I don't know what else to say. County veteran service officers in each county they're county employees. Their job is to help the veteran get the benefits. So I encourage you to do that. Follow through for your boys.
Absolutely.
So when you file for a service-connected disability rating, this opens up a whole new experience of the veteran dealing with the Department of Veterans Affairs. I say this because I myself have a real love-hate relationship with the VA. I love them because they've done a lot for me in my lifetime, but I've also seen how they deny people that should have been given their rating first time up at bat. So any medical records you have, make sure you keep all original copies. Never give the VA system an original copy of anything, because they have this wonderful tendency to lose paper. Oh, we never got that form. So,
like the active duty military.
yeah, well, we're not even going to go there. Some things never change. Now, when I was in from 68 to 71. Everything was hard copy.
Right.
The 201 files, hard copy. Everything we did, we typed it and put it in a file and stuck it in a filing cabinet.
Believe it or not, they still do that, but they still manage to lose it.
Like I said, some things never change. So we have determined that you have PTSD.
Yes.
You know you have it.
Yes.
To the degree you have it, I don't know. I'm not a clinical psychologist. That's not for me to decide one way or the other. The purpose of the program is to encourage you and women like you that are going through exactly what you're going through. They're coming home, maybe they're divorced, they have a couple of kids. Oh my God, how am I going to do this?
Right.
Well, there are people, there are groups, and believe it or not, the government really does exist to help the people. They just make it really hard sometimes. So if you don't have all your information, if you don't have your I's dotted, if you don't have your T's crossed, they're going to kick it back.
Right.
But don't give up, because you're not asking for something you haven't earned.
Right.
But they put the burden of proof on you as the veteran applying for. But a few weeks ago, Wonderful 60 Minutes did this wonderful expose about the VA and how they're not answering the needs of a lot of veterans. So the VA realizes that they have a huge issue with this, and they are trying to streamline this system. Meanwhile, there are 500,000 claims backlogged.
Easily.
So when that happens in a bureaucracy like the VA, it behooves you, the veteran, to have every piece of paper you have to fill out done right the first time, because they use every single excuse they can to deny you something that you are entitled to. Do not let 5 years go by without you doing this. Do it for yourself. Do it for the 4 boys. So there's enough of that. So now that we've talked about post-traumatic stress syndrome, how do you go to the VA? Wonderful. Where we live out here in Southern California, we have one of the best VAs right here. It's the VA Loma Linda. They have a wonderful women's health clinic there. You should go and get registered. It's real easy. Just take your discharge papers over there and you'll be registered within 24 hours. They really, this is the new slogan for healthcare for women veterans. The best care anywhere. And that's what they're trying to live up. That's what they're trying to give you back for your service.